All right, let's do this. How's everybody doing? Just getting everything pulled up here. Sorry it took so long to finally get to a stream to talk about the trip, but it's been that kind of a couple of weeks between a lot of stuff happening at home and another trip that I left on right after I got back and how busy that week was in Belgium. I was hoping to do a stream from Belgium while I was there, but it was busy. It was a busy couple of weeks, so it didn't happen. But here we are. How's everybody doing? Just got done watching the England-USA match. Would imagine our friends in England are not too happy with how that went, but we Americans will certainly take it. Just can't seem to finish, the Americans. It just should have beat both Wales and England, but USA won 0-0. Hey, the main thing is the U.S. now controls their own destiny. All they got to do is beat Iran, and they're through to the knockout stage. And I don't think any of us American fans really expect the U.S. to make a deep run this year. I think we're all looking ahead 4 years because we've got one of the youngest teams. We've got a very young, inexperienced squad. Give these guys 4 more years. Get us on home soil when we host the World Cup in 4 years. I feel like that's our chance to really make a run. So we'll see what happens. Matt, what is going on in Denver? So we can call football soccer now. It's funny. Daryl Dike, who is an American striker for the team that I support, West Brom, he posted that on Twitter a little while ago. He said it's called soccer now. It was kind of funny because West Brom posted a video today of all the players coming off the pitch after practice, giving their predictions, and all the players, all the English players were all predicting like 5-0 England, 3-0 England, and Yakushlu, who's not English, he said 2-2, and then Daryl Dike, of course, picked the Americans to win, so he's going to have some bragging rights, at least I think a little bit. Canada played really well against Belgium, and I think Belgium's one of the best teams in the World Cup this year. So, Australia didn't do bad at first playing against the defending world champs. So, what we're going to do in this stream is I'm just going to talk through some of the highlights of my trip to Belgium a couple weeks ago. Talk a little bit about the trip I made the next week to Denver, where I got to hang out with some of my favorite fellow educational YouTubers. And then talk about what's coming up next as far as travel for me, which won't be this year. It'll be early 2023. So in the meantime, if you guys have questions, things like that, throw them out there. This is, of course, this is a picture from my first night in Belgium on this trip. One of the best things you can do to beat jet lag is to stay up that first night and go to bed at a regular time. And it really does help kind of reset the clock a little bit. So, Travis, thank you so much. How much changes if Hannibal Hamlin stays vice president and became president instead of Johnson? Everything changes. I mean, because Reconstruction looks completely different. And I think the Reconstruction era South, the Jim Crow South as we know it, doesn't really happen. I think it's a tremendous change in the direction of American history if that happens. Okay, when does the Indian history segment start? Sander, gonna see you again in January. Excited for that. I believe there may still be tickets available, so anybody who's interested in going on the next Band of Brothers tour, which is going to be another tour of the areas associated with the Battle of the Bulge in and around Bastogne. WeHappyFew506.com. I'll put the website in the description or in the comments here. I believe they still have some tickets left for that. I know in the first couple of hours, like half of them sold out. So anyway, this is a picture from my first night. This was at the Menin Gate, which was an amazing experience. I knew that it would be. I knew that it would be powerful. And I filmed the whole ceremony that first night. So you'll see that when I do my video, about the Menin Gate. But it was a powerful experience to be at that place. So I'll show you here and there some images from this. Here's them playing the last post at the Menin Gate. amazing. It was beautiful. I got there an hour before just so I could get a front row view. And you needed to be there an hour before to get a front row view because they're easily at least probably 2,000 people there. I mean, it was so crowded, and they do this every single night. So incredible stuff. The Menin Gate was a very emotional experience for me that first night. And I'm going to show you a video. I don't know how well you'll be able to hear this. You might need to turn your volume up a little bit because I didn't have my microphone. I wasn't planning on shooting any narration that first night. So I didn't have my microphone with me. So it was kind of quiet. But I just wanted to record my thoughts because it was such an emotional experience that first night in the Menin Gate. So I'm going to play this video, and you might need to turn up the volume a little bit to hear it. I'm at the Menin Gate. I'm not planning on making my video about this until later in the week. But just finished dinner, my first night here in April. Every wall is covered, and then when you think you've seen them all, you come around the corner and there's another couple of thousand names on the wall. These are just the men missing who were never identified from just one army in one part of the Western Front, which is just one part of the war. It really puts this in perspective in a way that is just... No, my bad, guys. You know what? I always forget this when I'm streaming. Hold on. My bad. I have to change the audio settings from my recording settings in order for you guys to be able to hear this. I always forget that. Okay, let's try this again. Now you should be able to hear it. I'm at the Menin Gate. I'm not planning on making my video about this until later in the week. But just finished dinner, my first night here in April, and I wanted to come. And, my God. The names just go on and on. They go on and on and on and on. Every wall is covered, and then when you think you've seen them all, you come around the corner and there's another couple of thousand names on a wall. These are just the men missing who were never identified from just one army in one part of the Western Front, which is just one part of the war. It really puts this in perspective in a way that is just horrifyingly overwhelming. Yeah, you hear these just astronomical numbers of dead and missing and captured and wounded. And numbers, even big numbers, can just become numbers and become meaningless. So you hear a number like 55,000 names of missing at the Menin Gate Memorial. But then you go there and you start seeing these names. And every single name that you read is the name of a soldier whose body was never identified. And these are only a little more than half of the unidentified bodies just from the British Army, just from the Ypres salient. And then so you multiply that times thousands, throughout the entire war. And it just really just overwhelmed me in that moment to see all of those names and to realize just how vast these walls of names were and how small those walls of names were in the grand scheme of how many lives were lost. And it just, wow. And then just to see how they're honored every single night by the people of Ypres, it was just incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And if you have any interest whatsoever in the history of World War I and you have the means, you have to get there at some point in your life. It's not to be missed. Incredible. Just incredible. 19 hours left till the game. Yeah, I'm going to watch that one with my grandfather tomorrow. Opinions on the new All Quiet in the Western Front. I'm going to be making a video with my thoughts on that very soon. Let me show you. Let me see if I can find one more video to show you. And all of these, what you're seeing here, are all my pictures and all my raw video clips just from the Menin Gate. And you're going to see, I'm doing a whole video on the Menin Gate Memorial, the history of it, and that kind of stuff. So it was incredible. Yeah, it was just amazing, and you'll see the entire ceremony in my video from there. Roaming History, first of all, thank you. Yes, I will check it out. In fact, let me go subscribe to you right now. That way I'll remember later on. So let me pull up my phone here. I'm gonna subscribe to your channel right now. Always love to see new channels popping up and new content out there. So very cool. Check it out. Past presidential elections, yeah, we'll do some more of that. Presidential history seems to be very, very popular here. But all right, so let me talk to you about some of the other videos that I did. You see here, this is a folder of all of my Belgium content. And this kind of gives you an idea of what the video topics are going to be. There'll be a video showing you some of my highlights from the Band of Brothers tour that we did. We went to the site where the Battle of the Bulge began, the very spot where the Germans attacked into Belgium. So you'll see that. You'll see some of the sites associated with the guys, Band of Brothers. Here's the Christmas truce site. So I'll show you some of that here. This is the statue that's right in the town of Messen, which is just a couple miles from the Christmas truce memorial. That video will come out probably a couple weeks before Christmas. And it covers the entire Christmas truce, shows you one of the sites where we know 100% for sure a Christmas truce happened because we have firsthand accounts, including a map that showed exactly where it happened. How many videos will come out of this trip? Well, I can tell you here. Let's see. One on the Band of Brothers tour, one on the Christmas truce, one on Essex Farm and the writing of In Flanders Fields, one on Hill 60, one from the Langebark German Cemetery, one on the Menin Gate, one on the final push on Passchendaele, the Canadians, one on Polygon Wood, one on executions, one on the Trench of Death, one on Tynecott, one on Ypres, the intro. So 12 videos from that trip will be coming your way. So the Christmas truce one, that one's pretty, that was the very first video I shot, when I got there. This was literally like right after I got off the plane, got my rental car. I drove straight to the Christmas truce site. It was probably the best weather that I had too. The lighting was perfect that day. Here's one clip.
On Christmas Eve, 1914, headquarters issued a warning to the British Expeditionary Forces, quote, "It is thought possible that the enemy may be contemplating an attack during Christmas or New Year. Special vigilance will be maintained during these periods," end quote. Now, there had been sporadic fighting along the line.
All right, just a heads up, a little warning here to my natural German-speaking friends. No judgment here. I'm about to sing in German, so hopefully I did the best I could with it.
On the 24th, but as night fell, in most places it grew quiet. The weather got colder. The soggy ground here began to freeze. And here in the dark, as British soldiers sat talking quietly in their trenches, just across that short, deadly space of no man's land, they heard words they didn't recognize, but a tune that was unmistakable. Stille Nacht, heilige Nacht, alles schläft, einsam wacht. Cautious heads popped up above the British trenches and then back down again. But no shots rang out. Heads popped up again to take a longer look. Some of the Brits began to join in, singing the same tune, but in English. round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild.
Yeah,
After the
Sander, I keep thinking the same thing. When I hear you speak Dutch, it sounds a lot like German to me. Now, the Flemish speakers that are speaking Dutch, it sounds like a completely different language. It's crazy to me that they're speaking the same language that you are, but it sounds so completely different. But I guess that's kind of how an American versus a Scot both speaking English sound. It sounds like a completely different language. Yes, Zion is me for life. I actually, a number of the places I ended up visiting came from suggestions of people who were there. I definitely welcome those suggestions all the time. Otto, thank you for that. When is the album released? Actually, I have two. They're not available anywhere online, though. Tatenda, how you doing? Nico, visited a little bit in Germany, not much. In fact, there's a video that there actually is one video that's up on the channel when I visited the Reichswald Forest, British cemetery. That's in Germany. And I've got another one that I did from the town of Clev in Germany that I haven't put up yet. So anyway, so that's just some of the stuff you'll see. And somebody mentioned my podcast, Professor What. Actually, a lot of what you heard in the podcast is from my research I put together for the videos. Now, I will say this. I'm a little bit disappointed in my videos about Shot at Dawn because the lighting that day, the weather was so all over the place during my trip to Belgium. And so there were times I just had a really hard time finding a good spot to get decent lighting. And so some of the camera, like the angles and stuff, just the lighting just did not work out real well. But I'll show you a couple of the clips here in a minute from the Shot at Dawn episode. Oh, yeah, Professor What? I definitely... Sam Nixon, yes. Definitely want to get to the Eastern Front for sure. Okay, so let's find... Most of my B-roll stuff, I can't really play for you because it's shot in real time, but it's meant to be slowed down a lot, so they're really quick clips. This was really cool. So you go to the place where British soldiers were held before they were executed by the British Army, and there's two cells. One of them you can walk into and you can actually see like where the guys carved like stuff into the walls while they were awaiting trial or awaiting execution, and you see it kind of here. You see some of that stuff there. It's really neat. And then the other cell, they actually have a projector, and you actually see what it looks like if a soldier was in there kind of walking around and stuff. It's kind of neat. And there's sound with it too. It's really pretty a cool experience. Let me play the other video for you. I think this one's a little better. There you go. It's like you're looking into the cell and you actually see this guy walking around in there. And all it is just a really neat projection job with the right lighting and everything. It's pretty cool. What do I think of HMS Warspite, the most awarded warship ever? Definitely something I want to check out. Yeah, Otto, Reichswald and Clev was very cool. I enjoyed my time there. I'm hoping to get more time in Germany soon. Both of my trips into Germany have only been like an hour or two long. So, yeah, so you see what I mean. Here's an example of what I mean about how the lighting just was not cooperating with me.
Figures.
So I'm going to have to do some messing around with
soldiers were
editing to
can
fix
be
this.
Difficult to decipher. But the vast majority of executions which took place here on the Western Front were for desertion. Once the sentence was confirmed by the commanding general.
Have I seen All Quiet on the Western Front? Yes, and I'll be doing a video about that soon. I thought it was very good. Like many other people, I would say It's loosely based on the book. So if you went in expecting it to be an adaptation of the book, it wasn't. But as a standalone kind of depiction of the war, it was fantastic. And I watched it in German with subtitles. How do the emotions not hit you going to some of those places? They do. And they hit at weird times. I'll show you an example of that. If you've seen my video from the Somme battlefield, when I did the video on the Accrington Pals, there's an example of that where it very unexpectedly hit me when I was talking about casualty figures. And of course, it hit me really strong that first night at the Menin Gate. Another place that it really hit me was when I was covering the Battle of Passchendaele, which I expected would be emotional for me because Passchendaele has been one of those battlefields that I've always looked forward to going to and yet dreaded because I just know how absolutely horrific that place was. What did I think of the USA-UK game? I'm actually a little disappointed. I feel like the Americans should have won that game. I feel like they let so many chances go by. But I'm happy with the draw. Give me a minute for this stuff to load. I want to show you one of the clips from Passchendaele. Yeah, Wiesbaden. I do want to visit the Red Baron's grave. A history accuracy review channel for movies. A lot of people have suggested that, like history buffs. And that's actually why I've never done a reaction to history buffs, because I feel like his is already kind of a reaction. But yeah, I could see myself doing some of that here and there. All right, let me see if I can find the clip I want to show you. I think it's this one here, talking about the Battle of Passchendaele. Mexico versus Argentina. I think Argentina is going to come out with something to prove tomorrow. I expect Argentina to win that one, but I think it'll be close. I'm going to say 2-1. All right, here we go.
The stretcher bearers had it especially hard. Each step they took was exhausting. It took 4 to 6 men to carry one stretcher, and even small distances would take hours. At night, the time when most wounded men would normally have been evacuated, the task was simply impossible. The risk was just too high of getting...
And I want to point out to you, you kind of can't notice here, but it was ridiculously windy the day that I was at the Passchendaele Memorial, the Canadian Memorial there. You'll see kind of in the background the wind, and you can see the dead cat thing on my microphone blowing, and you can see the camera on the tripod blowing. It actually crashed my drone at one point during this my visit there. But it's about midway through this video when I'm reading the quote from one of the soldiers where he's just trying to figure out why on earth the generals would have ordered an attack at Passchendaele like they did. That it really kind of hit me emotionally.
Lost or getting stuck in the mud. Many of the wounded died waiting for someone to come. And the Germans shared in their misery. And it was reported that there was an unspoken rule on both sides not to fire on stretcher parties. Lieutenant James Annan of the Royal Scots described it this way. He said, quote, "Then there was a lull in the shelling, and through the machine gun slit on the back wall of the pillbox, we heard this terrible kind of gurgling noise. It was the wounded lying there sinking, and this liquid mud burying them alive, running over their faces into their mouth and nose. We had to keep heaving the duck boards up and trying to put some other stuff underneath just so that the fellows wouldn't sink so much. We couldn't understand why in the name of God anyone ordered an attack like that over terrain like that. It was impossible. The men had to leave the safety of their trenches as the water rose above their waists in many places."
That was actually my second time recording that because I got so emotional the first time I did it that I actually had to stop. And I get emotional now just thinking about it because Passchendaele to me is the most insanely idiotic decision of the war on either side that I can think of, at least of the stuff that I've studied. The fact that those men were ordered to make that attack over that ground in that situation, just, I can't fathom it. I absolutely cannot fathom it for no matter how hard I try. So yeah, what happened with the drone was And my drone usually holds up really well. Like I've had the drone up in like 25, 30 mile an hour winds with no issues. But I was flying the drone, and typically the way I have a DJI Mini too, and typically what will happen is if the drone loses its connection to the controller, or if something otherwise happens, the drone is programmed to where it'll come back and land at the spot where it took off. That's like its default thing to do. But it didn't do that this time. It all of a sudden I lost my connection. I've never lost my connection like that. And it started landing right wherever it was. And I didn't know exactly where it was at the time. And apparently what happened was the wind caught the cover of the battery, where you put the battery in. And when it threw that open, I completely lost control of the drone, and it just started coming down. I was dreading it was either going to come down in the middle of a farmer's field somewhere where I couldn't get to it, or it was going to come down in the middle of the road and somebody was going to drive over it. Well, it came down about 2 feet off the road, about 100 feet away from where I was. Thankfully, it was in a place I could get to it. It also could have come down in a tree or something. So I got very, very lucky that it came down where it did. Blinded by the cult of the offensive. Otis English, absolutely. Almost started the Napoleonic War stuff today, but I had a couple other things that I've been wanting to do first. Napoleonic War stuff's coming very, very soon. So that's Passchendaele. I'm looking forward to sharing that one with you guys. Let's see what else. Hill 60, pretty neat place, very touristy place. That's where a lot of people visit. Hill 60. It's a pretty popular location in the Ypres salient. All right, let's go to extra large icons here. Hurtgen Forest, Otto is very high on my list of places I would like to visit. Honestly, I think it's one of the biggest battles of World War II that you don't hear people talk that much about. So I feel like that's something I definitely would like to cover. Hill 60, a lot of cool stuff at Hill 60 that you can see. This here is a bunker that was originally built by the Germans, and then it was taken over by the Australians, and then it was actually used during World War II. There was fighting on Hill 60 in the Second World War as well. So there's damage. In fact, I think this damage right here on the right side was actually caused during World War II. Doing a genealogy. Well, Nixon has ancestry here in Northeast Ohio, so it wouldn't surprise me a bit if I'm related to him somehow. About half of my oversimplified videos are up right now. The other half will be back up in the next few days. Long story, but it has to do with some copyright issues that are being sorted out right now. So what else can I talk about Belgium? Here's another good view of Hill 60. You can just kind of see all of the marks from all of the shelling and the explosion of mines and all that sort of stuff. Pretty cool place to visit there. This is the crater for the area called the Caterpillar, which was on the opposite side of the railroad from Hill 60, and it was one of the 19 mines that were exploded to signal the beginning of the attack of what they call the Battle of Messines Ridge. So if you've seen the movie Beneath Hill 60, Hill 60 was one of those mines. The Caterpillar was another one of those mines. Monte Cassino in Italy would be a great place to visit. I'm related to Bush and Obama is easy. I'm related through a guy named Thomas Blossom, my 9th great grandfather. XL icons, he means business. Yes. This was a really cool site, and I have to give thanks. Yeah, actually, Magic Henri TV, you just mentioned it. I'm going to show it now. I have to give thanks to my friend Sander VK History for recommending this site to me, because this is actually a little bit outside of the Ypres salient, but a fantastic site to visit. It's called the Trench of Death, and this was actually held by the Belgians. And this is, if you've heard the Sabaton song, The Race to the Sea, when they say the last piece of Belgium's free, we're keeping a sliver. Well, this is where they held on to that sliver, was at the Trench of Death. This 300-yard long set of trenches where from fall of 1914 right up to the end of the war in 1918, the Belgians fought and died in large numbers. And really, really cool. And you can actually even see one spot where you're at a Belgian, what's called a mousetrap fortification, and then the German pillbox just like 50 yards away. And I'll show you that site here in just a second. Frenchies in my trenchies. Did I ever get a chance to chat with any World War I vets? Unfortunately, no. And they're all gone now, of course. Mr. Smart, I will talk about Mr. Beat here shortly. Yeah, the last World War I vet died about 10 years ago. The dude that reacted to my video, well, he didn't react to my reaction video, but he reacted to a video of mine. Well, it's funny you mentioned that.
Hey guys, well, if you remember, not too long ago I asked you to check out the channel History in Your Hand because he did a reaction to one of my videos from the Western Front. Well, here's Rob, and we are together here near the town of Menin as it's sometimes known, and we're both making content for our channels about the Christmas truce here at the site. So I'm going to put a link in the description so you can check out his channel if you haven't already. He's got a lot of great stuff from this area. Anything you want to add, Rob?
No, just Chris, it's a pleasure to meet you out here. It's been great. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, he bought me dinner last night, so he's a good guy. We'll keep him around a little while. So check out his channel, give him a subscription, and maybe comment and like some of his videos as well.
Yeah, so Rob and I connected in Ypres. We had dinner the night before that video was shot, and then we met up not only at the Christmas Trench site the Christmas Truce site because I had to go back and reshoot a video there. But then we also met up later in the afternoon or late morning, I think it was, over in Polygon Wood, and he walked around a little bit with me while I was in Polygon Wood. So what was I going to show you guys from the Trench of Death? Let me see if I can find it. Cool museum there too. Not a big museum, but still pretty neat. And they had some neat sites like this where they showed a picture like at the site where it happened. And those were really cool. They had a number of those, which was really, really neat. Great, just a great site. Here's the German pillbox at one end of the Trench of Death. This is where the Germans got across the Isar River. Just really, really close to where, and here's the Isar River right here. This was the river that was flooded by the Belgians to help keep the Germans from taking all their territory. Trying to find, here's another site of that German bunker here. Really, really cool. And you see these are really quick shots because these are actually shot in 120 frames a second with the idea that I'm going to slow them down to 30 frames a second. So it'll actually be 4 times longer than that. A lot of cool little places you can actually walk in and kind of duck down through, and just really, really neat stuff there. What is my projection for the game? Ohio State's at home. They're going to win 42-24. Magic Henri, your great-grandfather actually died there. Wow. Wow, that is powerful stuff. Alex, I've actually visited Lowry Torren's grave at Arlington National Cemetery. I don't have it on this hard drive. I've got 8 videos that I shot at Arlington that I haven't uploaded yet. And I visited the mass grave that he's buried in Arlington. Is actually one of them. What else can I show you? Oh, Polygon Wood. Let's show you one of the German bunkers at Polygon Wood. I'm glad to see Sam Nixon stepping out of his comfort zone and doing some European history, yes. I have gone to the Caribbean a few times, Mr. Smart, but that was family trips, vacations. Polygon Wood, very cool. Here's Black Watch Corner.
In the final stages of the First Battle of Ypres, there was a desperate last-ditch attempt by some of the elite soldiers of the German army to break through the thinly held British lines, a stand had to be made, and it was made by the men of the Black Watch here on the southern end of Polygon Wood. To this day, the place where they made that stand is called Black Watch Corner.
So I'll tell a little bit of that story. One of the things that's complicated about doing videos at the Ypres Salient is because you have this tiny area of the Western Front where basically, with the exception of a mile or two here or there, 3 miles here, 4 miles there, the front line stayed pretty static for 4 years. It's tough to go to a place and tell a story of one battle because there were really 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 battles fought on that exact spot. So what I ended up doing in some of these cases is just talking about the location and then highlighting stories from the different battles. So Polygon Wood, I talk about 1914, I talk about 1915, I talk about 1916, I talk about 1917. So I tell little snippets of each of the fights that happened there at Polygon Wood, for example, just because there was so much that happened there over time.
So this German bunker here is known as Scott Post. Well, obviously Scott was not German. This was built in 1916 by the Germans when they took possession of Polygon Wood, and it was captured then during the attacks by the Australians in 1917, and it was named after one of their commanders who was later killed during the fight here in Polygon Wood. After the war, there were unexploded munitions all over Polygon Wood, and so they would use Scott Post bunker to blow the munitions up. They would put it inside, explode it, and it held up pretty well. You can see some of the damage that has happened to it, but most of that damage actually comes from the inside and is post-war rather than during the war itself.
So I believe, I'm trying to remember, but I think that particular bunker, if not that bunker, it was one of the bunkers like it there in Polygon Wood. There was a situation where after one of the battles, they came in and found 14 dead soldiers in the bunker without a scratch on any of them. Let's see who can guess first what happened, how those guys died, if there wasn't a scratch on any of them. And it wasn't gas. Matt, actually, for the most part, the Germans were pretty respectful of the World War I sites when they came through during the Second World War. There were some exceptions to that, but they were surprisingly respectful to those. It wasn't gas. No, they weren't hanged. No mark on them. Yes, Jeff got it. It was concussion. The concussion from an artillery shell killed all 14 guys. Didn't leave a mark on their body, but it just stopped their hearts. I mean, that's how horrible the concussion from an explosion could be. Yeah. All right, Tynecott Cemetery. Our British friends especially are probably very familiar with Tynecott already. The largest British Commonwealth War Graves Commission cemetery anywhere on planet Earth is Tynecott Cemetery. So I'll show you here's some of the pictures. J.P. Robertson. I brought some pictures along with me of some of these guys so I could leave them at their graves. Robertson was an incredible story of bravery in the Canadians' final push on Passchendaele, the village of Passchendaele. He was the last of 9 Canadian Victoria Crosses that were awarded in the final couple of weeks of the Battle of Passchendaele for their last push on Passchendaele Ridge. And I told his story in the video on Passchendaele. There's another guy that I found a picture of and just wanted to honor. The war that I find most interesting, I think, probably is World War I right now. Hey, take care, Shadow Wolf. I've not been to Ghent. I was only in and around Ypres until I went over to Liège for the tour the last couple of days that I was there. Found this guy because he's a distant cousin of mine, J.T. Whitaker. My Whitaker family originally comes from Lancashire. Thomas. I didn't get the impression the Belgian folks were cold. I will say this, comparatively speaking, I found the people in eastern France a bit friendlier than the people of Flanders. But I didn't think that they were cold or unfriendly. I just didn't find them especially warm either. But no complaints at all. I mean, I had a fantastic time in Belgium. Thoughts for Tuesday's game, USA and Iran? I think the U.S. will come ready to play and they'll take care of business. Arthur Conway Young. This is my favorite grave that I've ever visited. I knew that this one existed going in. I specifically looked for his grave because of what his family put at the bottom. It's right here. Sacrificed to the fallacy that war can end war. And doesn't that just say it all? And this shows you here, there are 4 German pillboxes that are still standing in Tyncott Cemetery, including the one that the Cross of Sacrifice there in the center is actually built on top of. And that was why they chose this spot, because it was originally, after it was taken, it was a field hospital. Let me see if there's anything else I want to show you from this one. So when they built the Menin Gate Memorial, it was originally supposed to have the names of all 90,000 unidentified who were killed, presumed to have been killed from the Ypres salient, from the British Commonwealth war graves, but they ran out of room. So what they ended up doing, excuse me for a second, still dealing with a little bit of an upper respiratory thing here. So what they ended up doing was they did a cutoff date in the middle of August 1917. And so everybody from the Ypres salient missing and presumed dead from the beginning of the war to August 1917 is on the Menin Gate. Everybody from mid-August 1917 to the end of the war ended up on these tablets. There's about 35,000 of them at Tyncott. So that's this area here. And it actually goes on much, much further than what you see here. I'm in just one little section of it. And then that doesn't count the guys from Newfoundland and New Zealand who have their own memorials. The New Zealand memorial's in the middle of Polygon Wood. And I shot some video of that one as well. What would I say is the most well-preserved battlefield on the Western Front? Now, I haven't been to all of them. A couple of places come to mind. Vauquois Hill, fantastic. Thank you, Sander, for that recommendation as well. Beaumont Hamel, the Newfoundland Memorial Park at the Somme is a good spot. But like I said, I haven't been to all of them, so it's hard to really say. Most of the places that, like the trenches aren't there anymore. There's some great spots in Verdun, especially up around Fort Vaux and Fort Douaumont, Fleury. There's a lot to see at Verdun. I highly recommend Verdun. Yeah, Sander, you're right. That couple you filmed, that's just incredible thing that they're doing. Another New Zealand memorial near Mesen. Okay. Let's see, what haven't I shown you yet? There's the Langemark German cemetery, which is a huge German cemetery. Hey, Noah, how's it going? Vimy Ridge, I haven't been to yet, and that's an excellent point. I've heard that about Vimy. I haven't been there, though. Another GeoGuessr stream, definitely. Langemark's a pretty neat spot. So right here, this little area that you see behind me right there is the mass grave of about 25,000 German soldiers. I mean, it's, I don't know, 100 feet long, 40, 50 feet wide. 25,000 in that spot. And then what you see on all these little pillars are all the names of who they believe to be buried there. There's also a couple of British soldiers buried there. And this is the likely resting place of two German aces. Werner Voss, who I did a video on recently talking about how I think he might have been Germany's best pilot. And then Erwin Bohm, who is the guy who's responsible for the collision that killed Oswald Boelke. And they're all in just that one little spot right there. It's crazy that they're in that one little spot. Here's another view of that. That's the whole mass grave right there. I mean, that is 25,000 graves right there in that one little area. I did watch All Quiet on the Western Front. Did I go to the Poppy Memorial near the car park entrance? Are you talking about all of this here? I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. There it is. I think that's probably what you're talking about right there. Yeah, Alex, that's probably accurate. Greetings from Liège, Alexandra. I loved my short time in your beautiful city in Liège. Got to spend a couple of nights there, 3 nights there. Didn't get to see much of the city because we were touring, but all right, I think that's just about everything. All right, let me show you Essex Farm real quick. This is where it is said that John McCrae wrote In Flanders Fields. And I had a crazy incident happen there where, let me show you this picture because this is about the best picture I could get of the entourage that showed up while I was there. So I posted a video about this on Instagram the day it happened, but let me tell you the story real quick. So I'm at Essex Farm Cemetery, right? It's right along this main road. It's not very big. I'm the only person there. And all of a sudden, these 2 black cars pull up, and they're the kind of like fancy black sedans that you think of when you think of like high profile security. And that's exactly what these guys were. These guys get out, right? And they're all wearing black coats, and they've got the earpiece with the cord that goes down. They're like the stereotypical like Secret Service security type people, right? And they start spreading out all throughout the cemetery. There's like 8 or 10 of them at this point. And 3 or 4 are just eyeing me the whole time because I'm the only person there. And then like 4 more vehicles pull up, and one of them is like this like mini bus type thing, and like 10 people get out of it. And then out of all the other vehicles get out a bunch more security, and they all fan out. And one car drives up this little driveway. And like it legit looked like the President of the United States had just shown up or something. And I at one point, because these people, they had a tour guide, and I got close enough at one point that I could hear the tour guide was speaking French. But I don't know if the people he was talking to, if French was their first language, or if French just happened to be the language that the tour guide and those people had in common. But I walked up to one of the security agents at one point. I'm like, because I didn't want to be a problem. I'm walking around with this backpack and all this equipment that I'm carrying around. And I said, hey, do you need me to stand aside, get out of the way? And he said, no worries. And I said, must be somebody pretty important. And he said, yep. And that's all he said. Like, that's all he said to me. And I tried real nonchalantly to take pictures. And this is the only picture I could get of the people that were in this entourage. And I think that the woman here and the guy that she's with were like the main people that they were guarding. But I have no idea who it was. No idea at all. Dr. Smitty, thank you and welcome to Historian. the Western Front way, that would be really, really cool to be able to hike the whole Western Front. That would be amazing. I would love to do something like that myself. So yeah, so I have no idea who those people were, but it was a fascinating experience. Here's another picture of them as they were walking away. Just no clue what happened. It wasn't the French Prime Minister. I know what he looks like. It definitely wasn't him. I'm trying to find, see if there's a good video I can show you from this. So here's inside one of the Essex Farm, like the bunkers here. This was the field hospital that John McCrae was working in when he wrote In Flanders Fields. Hey, Dr. Smitty, I'm so glad this is your first time checking out a live stream. Very cool. See, here's a sign here that just honors the fact John McCrae in Flanders Fields. He wrote it on the 3rd of May, 1915. I couldn't pick out the accent. I got the impression that the tour guide who was speaking was a Belgian speaking French, but that makes sense. I couldn't hear the other people speaking, so I will eventually get to the beaches of D-Day at some point. You got stuck in Putin's motorcade in St. Petersburg. That's awesome. My assessment of preservation of battlefields in the U.S. versus Europe. I wish, and maybe this is because it's what I grew up experiencing. I wish the European battlefields were more like the U.S. battlefields. In terms of the fact that, like, on the U.S. battlefields, you've got markers explaining what happened where. You've got that here and there on the British or on the European battlefields, but for the most part, you kind of have to know what happened there going in, because you don't get a lot of explanation other than at a few key spots here and there. But like, Passchendaele, the Canadian Memorial, they've got a nice little marker there that explains what happened exactly on that spot. So they have some of that. But it is different. I can't do accents, period. I'm terrible with accents. I can recognize accents, but I can't imitate them very well. My son's very good at accents. All right, so this is a grave here that I'll point out just because Valentine Strudwick was only 15 years old when he died at Ypres on the 14th of January, 1916. Lauren, thank you so much. And Valentine Strudwick would have been classified by the British as what they call wastage casualties. What that means is he didn't die during any of the major battles. But in between, there were sometimes thousands and thousands of casualties because there was constant fighting happening or disease and things like that. And they called that wastage when it was casualties that were happening when there was no major movement of the armies going along with it. Most brutal battle of the American Civil War? Probably the late stuff like Spotsylvania. Spotsylvania might be the most brutal battle, just in terms of raw brutality and the length and the hand-to-hand fighting and the nature of it. It wasn't the highest casualty rate. It was up there. Yeah, I'd love to visit Fort Wayne sometime. Hey, S. Bishop from Devon. Very cool. I have lots of family members who fought in all kinds of wars. And if you stick around the channel long enough, you'll hear me talk about them. Hey, Trina, I'm so glad that you found me because of JD's channel. That's one of the things we hope happens because of our collabs is kind of introducing each other to one another, other people to our channels. All right, so speaking of which, let me talk to you a little bit about... let me just talk real quick about the tour. Because I mentioned this at the beginning. And they're doing another one. It's hosted by a group called We Happy Few 506. If you go to wehappyfew506.com, you can get tickets to the next tour. The next tour is January 28th and 29th. It's going to be beginning in Bastogne. And it's going to cover a lot of the battlefield in and around Bastogne. I've done 2 of them so far. They're hosted and they're attended by some of the guys from Band of Brothers who are phenomenal. So fun to hang out with. And it's not like one of those things like you go on this tour and you get to meet them for like 5 minutes, right? Like we literally hung out with these guys for hours and hours and hours, and just sat around in the bar and in the restaurant hanging out with Phil McKee, who played Colonel Strayer in Band of Brothers, who is an amazing Glaswegian human being, by the way. We connected right away because my family's roots are from Glasgow and he's from Glasgow, and we just had an awesome time talking and hanging out together. Phil is so cool. He was also in the Lost Battalion movie. He played Captain McMurtry in Lost Battalion. He's in The Messenger, the movie about Joan of Arc. He's got a pretty prominent role in that. I actually watched that last night and saw him shouting from the ramparts, making fun of Joan of Arc. But hanging out with Matt Leach, who played Talbert, who's just this insane ball of energy that goes and goes and goes and just is really great. And I know Sander and some others who are here have been on those tours as well. And we've got this core group of us that went to both tours. I don't know, maybe 20, 25 of us that have gotten to know each other from all over the place, from the UK and the Netherlands and Belgium and France and the US. And, really, really fun and cool. And I consider in Germany, and we've gotten to know each other and become friends. And they're doing another one here, at the end of January. That's going to be really cool. And so here's Sander giving Matt a Ajax jersey with his last name on the back of it. And they just walk around the bus and we're talking. And so there's Freddie Joe Farnsworth. Who's another great guy. He's in one episode of Band of Brothers. He rides a horse. He plays Sergeant Farnsworth in the Carentan episode, but he was one of the military advisors on Band of Brothers, and so that was really cool. And here's Reg, who will be the tour guide again for the next one. Amazing guy, knows his stuff, tells a story in a great way. This is us down there. A bunch of us decided to climb down. This is the woods where the patrol happened. This is about the spot where, if you're familiar with Band of Brothers, this is where Private Julian was shot in the neck on the patrol during the Siege of Bastogne. So there's Phil right there, Phil McKee that played Colonel Strayer. And I'm trying to find got a picture of me and Phil when we were in Germany. Here's me when I conquered the town of Foix. What else do we got here? So this is Germany here. Here's me and Matt. And then me and Tim, who's from Missouri with Matt. And there's Phil right there. And don't let this fool you. I'm a good 3 or 4 inches taller than Phil. The ground we were standing on made it look like he was taller than me, but I'm actually a couple inches taller than him. But great guy. We had so much fun on this trip and learned so much. And here's the guys all pushing one of our friends up the hill there, and there's the guys there, and there's Reg, who's an awesome tour guide. It was great. It was so much fun. So if you have the means, I know there are still some tickets left for that next tour. WeHappyFew506.com. Get them now, because I guarantee they'll be sold out in the next day or two. They just went on sale, I think, this morning, and within a couple hours they were half gone already. Jaden, thank you so much. Appreciate that. My plans on remaking the Holy Roman Empire. We did go to Union Station. In fact, my wife and I took the train into Denver. So let's talk about that. We'll talk about Denver a little bit. My wife and I, we took the train from the airport into Union Station while we were there. So Oregon Trail locations. I've been to Independence Rock. I've been up on the top of Independence Rock. So got to spend a couple of days right after I got back from Belgium on a Monday, and on Thursday my wife and I flew to Denver to spend the weekend we were there with Matt Beat and his wife Shannon. So if you're familiar with the channel Mr. Beat, he was there. Jarrett from Genia Vlogger, Will from Knowing Better, Cypher, the Cynical Historian, was there. Grant, whose channel is The Casual Historian. Arvin Ash was there. KP from Molecular Memory was there. There were a few others too, but we just had so much fun. Like we hung out together. We did a meet and greet with fans. And I think other than Will from Knowing Better, whose channel has over 1 million subscribers, I probably had the most show up. So it was really cool. We had a number of people showed up for that. It was really fun to meet everybody. So what collabs you're going to get from Denver, stay tuned. There will definitely be some coming down the road. But we had a great time, and just being able to hang out with each other and share some ideas with each other, and kind of talk, like share some insights and things like that. And we played Cards Against Humanity together, so that was a lot of fun, and get to kind of see that side of people. And I can honestly tell you from hanging out with those guys, you know, if you ever want to know anything about what those people are like behind the scenes, any of those people, more than happy to share that with you, because no, PewDiePie was not there. And Drew Durnall was supposed to be there, but he didn't show up, and nobody ever heard from him. He had said he was planning to be there, but he didn't come. So I'm not sure what happened, why he didn't show up, but he was supposed to. Your great-grandfather was a soldier fighting against the Japanese in World War II. Very cool, Jacob. Yeah, so we did. I don't think I have any of the pictures from the Denver trip on my computer yet. I think they're still all on my phone. So I can't really show you any of those at the moment. Yeah, we'll definitely be doing some more meet and greets. I'm going to build that into all of my future travels. Build meet and greet times that I'll announce in the future. Because one of the things I found out from my trip to Antietam was that by announcing the days I would be at Antietam and just kind of leaving it open to folks showing up and meeting whenever, it was great, but it made it very hard for me to get the content made for the channel that I wanted to make, because I was constantly like being interrupted, and that was all on me. I threw that invitation out there. That's nobody else's fault. But I just have to be more structured in that in the future, just to make sure that I can get done what I need to do while also being able to, because when folks meet me, when people go out of their way to come to meet me, I feel that it's important that I give them my attention and my time. So I don't want to be ignoring them and making content when I want to make it worth your while. You know what I mean? So, Dr. Smitty, very cool. Thank you for that. You're going to Bosnia for Army training. Awesome. That should be an interesting experience. I would very much like to get to that part of the world at some point when I get a chance. What state would I recommend to someone from the UK to visit the USA for a first trip? You know, it depends on what you're looking for, right? If you're looking to get, like, if you're into history, I would say maybe like go to Washington D.C. and then maybe visit Virginia. You know, but the U.S. is just like any other place, right? So you're from the UK, right? You know that going to London only gives you a very specific picture of the UK. That going to London's very different than, say, going to the middle of the country in the East Midlands or something. Same thing's true with the US. New York City is very, very different than Northeast Ohio, where I live, which is very, very different than the middle of Wyoming, right? So, you know, you're going to get a different experience depending on where you go and what it is you're looking for. And the US is huge, right? You know, the UK is like, you know, it can fit into a lot of US states are bigger than the UK. So, opinion of Somalia, I don't really have much of an opinion of Somalia one way or the other. Jason, glad you enjoyed that president test. It was something lighthearted, something a little different to do. Do I help out filmmakers in researching historical events? I have been approached for such things. I haven't done it much, but Michael, feel free to email me. It can't hurt to ask and see if there's anything I can help out with. I will say that my time is stretched pretty thin as it is between my channels and my podcast and trying to write a book and being a dad and a husband and all that stuff like that. But it can't hurt to ask. vloggingthroughhistory@gmail.com. Shoot me an email if you want. Boston is good for history. The Freedom Trail, definitely. Trina, absolutely right. And there's a lot to see in a small area in Boston. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, S. Bishop. Exercise Tiger. That was what, like 900 Americans died in that, something like that. Any World War I sites in Belgium I still want to visit. Yes. Mons. I want to get down to that area. There's a cemetery there where the first and last British Empire casualties are buried in the same cemetery from the war. Really close to each other, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. And there are just so many more videos that I want to make just about the Somme and, I mean, the Western Front as a whole. I could spend the rest of my life traveling to World War I battlefields and not make all the content that I would like to make. So, 18 hours. Yes, until the big game. Polk is an S-tier president. Change your mind? I wouldn't change your mind from that. I wouldn't agree. But it's not something I disagree with so strongly that I would argue with it. Did I go to Waterloo? No, but stay tuned. Maybe coming sooner than you think. Why was Belgium so important in the early days of World War II? Because the entire German plan for the war required speed and required getting through Belgium quickly. And the fact they didn't get through Belgium quickly, that they got bogged down at Liège, that they got slowed down at Mons, that they got stopped at the Yser, completely threw their whole plan out of whack, to the point where Moltke, their general-in-chief at the beginning of the war, maybe it was Moltke, it might have been Falkenhayn who took over. One of them basically said that the war was lost in those first couple of weeks when they didn't get through Belgium as fast as they should have. Dr. Smitty, the Discord is no longer really sponsored by this channel. I haven't shut it down yet, but I don't advertise it either. So trying to decide whether or not we're going to shut it down altogether or if I'm just going to hand it over to some other people to run. But it's not really something I'm involved with anymore. I have seen All Quiet on the Western Front, and it is coming soon. I will be doing a video on that very, very soon. Sorry, I'm just checking some stuff real quick here. Wilson is S tier. Yeah, I'm just ignoring Ivan and his craziness right there. Who win the World Cup? I feel like Belgium might. But, you know, maybe France is going to buck the trend and actually do well as a former champion and actually make a run. I guess we'll see. But I still would like to see Belgium make a run. I feel like they could. I initially said England, but England... which England are we going to get? Like, is the United States that good? Or is England not as good as we thought they were? I guess we'll see. I've actually got... I'm looking at this... at my videos here, and I realize just how many videos I haven't edited and uploaded for you guys yet. I have nearly as many subscribers as Iceland has people. This might actually be kind of a fun thing to do, to start doing a running total of how many subscribers I have versus the population of countries and cities and things like that. Iceland has 376,000 people. Yeah, we are closing in on Iceland, aren't we? So yeah, from my trip to the Netherlands... gosh, look at all these videos that I haven't edited and uploaded to you guys yet. I did this video in Germany about the execution of 2 paratroopers. There's not a lot of clips to this one, but I shot this in Cleve in Germany. So there's that one. Actually, Kranenburg is the name of the town where I shot that, not Cleve. Here's some videos I shot about the landing site of the 82nd, one of the landing sites for the 82nd Airborne. Did I not do this one yet either? I guess I didn't. Oh, I did. This is the, that's the cemetery, the Russian cemetery in Amersfoort. I did upload that video. The Bastogne War Museum. I got all kinds of clips from that when I was there. You must feed us the content horde. Here's my problem. I suck at editing. And when you consider how poorly my original content does compared to reaction videos, it's a cost-benefit analysis, right? How much work do I put into a video that's going to get 10,000 views? You know, because it's going to take me 8 or 10 hours to edit one of these videos, to upload it, to get to 8 or 10,000 views, or I can spend an hour making and uploading a reaction video that'll get 30,000 views. So, you know, it's one of those things I have to weigh like that. I did upload the videos about Foix. I haven't uploaded the videos from the Henri Chapelle Cemetery yet. So that's another one. Henri Chapelle, absolutely beautiful cemetery. Here's a view of Belgium from the Henri Chapelle Cemetery. It's a beautiful cemetery, it really is. That's where some of the guys from Band of Brothers are buried there, actually. Looking to see if I can show you any more of the views there. Yeah, so check this out. In Henri Chapelle, hold on. Take a look at these 3 graves. Robert Tester, November 26, 1943. Glenn Tester, January 9th, 1945. And James Tester, September 17th, 1944. That's Operation Market Garden, I think. No, he was 22nd Infantry, so it wasn't Market Garden. Brothers. 3 brothers, all buried side by side in Henri Chapelle. Beautiful, beautiful cemetery there. Yeah, you know what? Hiring an editor, that's one of the things that actually really surprised me when I was meeting the other YouTubers when I was in Denver, is how many of them actually have an editor that they pay. Me and Mr. Beat, who were actually 2 of the larger channels there, do our own stuff. Most of the other ones pay an editor to do everything. Yeah, my problem is I'm afraid they wouldn't do it right, or they wouldn't know what I want, and I don't know. I guess at some point I'll probably have to do that. Margraten American Cemetery, which is again an amazing cemetery. That's the American cemetery where all of the dead of the Netherlands are buried, and a number of the guys from Band of Brothers are buried there. Again, it's a beautiful cemetery. The highest ranking American killed by enemy fire in the Western Front in World War II. General Maurice Rose is buried there. Number of here's if you're familiar with Band of Brothers, there's Dukeman, who was killed at the Crossroads battle, which you may have seen my video visiting the site where Dukeman was killed with the actor who portrayed him. This was a cool grave to visit because he's from Ohio, and he was from, my wife's grandfather was in the 524th Bomb Squadron, 379th Bomb Group. Here's his uniform right here, with his Presidential Unit Citation and oak leaf on it. Cluster, I guess you call it, for a second Presidential Unit Citation. And Matthew Zack was a fellow Ohioan in that same squadron. There's Bob Cole, who received the Medal of Honor. He's the reason Dick Winters didn't get the Medal of Honor for Breakcore Manor, because Bob Cole got the Medal of Honor for the 101st Airborne for D-Day. Hey, Edward, I did enjoy the England-USA game, though I felt like the USA deserved to win. So, links should be in the description, Tina, of most videos to the other channels. My gaming channel, my extra channel. I don't upload very often on the other channels, but I do. Reichswald Forest, I did upload. Overloan might be the best World War II museum I've ever been to. Thanks again to Sander for that one, who went with me to that museum. Really, really amazing stuff they have in that museum in the Netherlands. That's another video I've got to get uploaded to you guys so you can see it. And then the Eiselstein German cemetery. I believe it's the largest German World War II cemetery on the Western Front. Like 40-some thousand dead buried there. What would I do if I were teleported back to ancient Egypt? Try to teleport back to present day as soon as possible. The World War II Museum in New Orleans I haven't been to. That's a place I'd like to get to for sure. Footage from the Argonne Forest. So yeah, let's talk about the Lost Battalion because let's go to France. This was my trip to France. When did I visit? I think that was day 2. So I had a script for some narration I wanted to do and do a video. I went to the site where the Lost Battalion happened, and I'll show you a couple of those clips here. But I was downloading the research I had done onto my phone so that I could, because I was doing like 20 videos that week, so I couldn't remember everything. So I had a lot of notes and things like that. And I lost my cell phone signal when I was in the Argonne Forest. It's the one and only place I've lost my signal in all my time in Europe this last year, including in the Scottish Highlands. I never even lost a signal. Lost my signal in the Argonne, and so I couldn't access my notes. But I did quote the song Lost Battalion when I was there.
I can't come here and not do it.
This is where it happened.
Far from their land as they made their stand, a disregarded demand. It's surrender or die, and the stakes are high. They live or they die, there's no time for goodbye. With a weapon in hand as they made their stand, a disregarding demand, they would never comply. They would rather die. They stood strong, and the legend still lives on. It happened right here where I'm standing. Oh, unreal. I was listening to the song as I made my way here. And then I had to climb down a ridiculous hill. It's going to be fun getting back up. My car is up there somewhere.
Yeah, so that's where it happened. Let me see. I've got a couple of other clips here of the Lost Battalion site. It's down a real steep cliff in a ravine. Steven, thank you for that. Yes, the stream Boring Old Biddy will... All my streams stay on the channel after they're over. Yeah, so here's the sign up at the top of the ravine that tells you this is where the Lost Battalion was. And that's the little narrow road that you take through the Argonne Forest to get there. Here you go. Now you can see down the hill. That's where, down there at the bottom is where I was standing in that other video. But this is the Argonne. And just about 2 miles from where I'm standing here is where Alvin York earned his Medal of Honor. And then there's actually another marker about a mile down the road from there that shows information about the Lost Battalion here. And the 6 men who were awarded the Medal of Honor connected to the events of the Lost Battalion. Another one from that first trip to Europe that I haven't uploaded yet is my visit to Mont Falcon, which is a really cool site. So I've got to get that one up too. Man, this is just reminding me how much work I've got to do to get editing done on some of this stuff. Here's one of the bunkers that's still there in Mont Falcon from World War I. There's another look at it. The Argonne Forest wasn't destroyed by mortar fire because, unlike other parts of the Western Front, it wasn't a part of the trench warfare where you had artillery fire going for months and months and months in the same area, which is what destroyed the trees on most of the other parts of the front. The Argonne was really only a part of the fighting at the very end of the war, so it was kind of more fluid warfare, kind of moving through rather than staying put and fighting. That's why more of it wasn't destroyed. But Montfaucon's a cool site because you have these remains of this like 1,000-year-old church on the site too, including this part right here that was turned into like a machine gun nest. See if I can show you a bit. Here's a better view of the machine gun nest that was actually part of that church. That's another one just from my first visit to Europe that I haven't uploaded yet. And I think I've got more from that too. Because I also have not uploaded. Here's my drone flying over a very foggy Belleau Wood. So this, if you ever hear about Belleau Wood, this right in front of you, that is Belleau Wood. And right at the top, at the north end of what you're seeing right here is where the Ein Marne American Cemetery is, which is where the dead from Belleau Wood are buried. In fact, I'll show you a drone shot from the other side if I have it on here. Actually, no, it's not on that one. It's here you go. So here's a drone shot from the other side of Belleau Wood. That's Belleau Wood right there. This is the Ein Marne American Cemetery that wraps around the southern end, or wait, northern end of Belleau Wood. First site that I visited in Europe on my very first day in Europe. Amazing. I suppose there are a lot. When is the 24-hour stream? Oh my gosh. I don't know if I could handle that. The longest stream I've done was my 4-hour stream with Mr. Beat. Brady, Bob Cole was not. I think you're confusing two stories there, because the incident that you see in Band of Brothers did happen as it was portrayed. The incident with Bob Cole was actually a bayonet charge at a different bridge that happened with a different unit. The two incidents are not connected. 500,000 subs, do a 24-hour stream. Wow. I don't know about a 24-hour stream, but maybe something a little less ambitious than that. Let's see. I started doing one about the Harlem Hellfighters, but I didn't get enough content recorded for that one either. All of those other ones I did. Oh, I haven't done the one on Colonel Driant yet. And I also haven't done the one on Fort Douaumont. My goodness. Between all these different videos, I've got about 30 videos worth of original content that I haven't edited yet. I'm just realizing that. I think the reason I didn't upload the Colonel Driant video is because I kept mispronouncing the French word for light infantry. It's chasseur, as you see here. Chasseur is like their light infantry from World War I. Chasseur. I kept saying chausseur, which is a completely different French word that has a U in it. And I think that I was like embarrassed about my pronunciation of that, and that's why I didn't upload that video, because otherwise it was actually a really good video, including this really cool bunker that's intact in the woods there in Verdun. Look in what incredible shape that is in for a 100-year-old bunker. And they're all over the place there. I mean, Verdun is just littered with fortifications. Magnus, my first trip, that is absolutely true. My first trip, I definitely tried to do too much. So let me explain. So for my first trip to Europe, it was this trip. It was when I went to France back in February. I spent about 3 months doing research and planning for that trip. And my planning involved about 6 videos worth of content every day that I was in France. I was planning on doing like 30 videos while I was there. But what happens is I get there and I have to hit the ground running, and I've got to go boom, 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 boom. I've got to shoot the videos, and I've got to move and go to the next site. I don't really leave any time for me to just explore and learn and actually appreciate and enjoy the sites. So I kind of did the opposite then when I went to the Netherlands, and I didn't do enough planning for that trip because I kind of went the other way. So then when I did this most recent trip to Belgium, I think I found a happy medium. I decided to stick to one site, the Ypres Salient. All of the videos that I did were within 20 minutes of my hotel. And very slow pace. I did like maybe 3 videos worth of content a day. And a lot of days, like by 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was done making my videos for the day. And I got to relax and kind of enjoy it a little bit. And it was a much better pace. So, yeah. The first man who died in World War II, I don't know if we know that, but it had to have been in Belgium. I mean, that's where the war really started, I guess. So I didn't do the Colonel Driant one. I didn't do the Henry Gunther video yet. Henry Gunther is an American who's generally agreed to have been the last man to die on the Western Front. And it was so windy up on that hill. Here you'll see the flag. It was so windy up there, and I didn't have wind protection for my microphone at the time, that I had to sit inside my car to make the videos.
So as the hour of the armistice approached, Henry Gunther made his fatal run at the Germans. Kane continued by writing, Gunther still must have been fired by that desire to demonstrate
it was just really kind of a short narration, and it shows the site where Henry Gunther died, which is up on this hill here. But there just wasn't a lot to it, and I didn't feel like there was a lot to offer with that one. So I'll probably upload that one at some point just as like a small video. Fort Douaumont is amazing, but the weather was so absolutely atrocious that day that I couldn't really do a lot outside in terms of narration, and I was required to wear a mask inside the fort, even though I was the only person in the fort. It was just the rules in place at the time because of COVID. But oh my gosh, what an incredible site Fort Douaumont is. Really, really neat stuff there. So that one I'll have to get up at some point. Here's just one of the insides of Fort Douaumont. Highly recommend the forts around Verdun if you're ever in that area. Trying to find. So yeah, this is just showing you a little bit of the outside of Fort Douaumont. I'm standing on top of the fort right now. This is all on top of the fort. I thought All Quiet on the Western Front was really, really well done. It's a great movie for understanding the horrors of World War I. It's just not a great adaptation of the book. I think it's just loosely inspired by the book. I will be doing a video about it.
Welcome to Fort Douaumont. The weather today is absolutely awful. 30-mile-an-hour winds. It's about...
So you can see how low the quality was because the lighting was bad and the weather was bad. So that's some of the reasons why I didn't do that one. And then I think I did everything from the Somme that I shot while I was there. These are all my raw videos from the Somme. And then I've got a lot of other stuff too that I haven't done. I did a whole video on Plymouth Rock and the Mayflower. This is back when I still wore glasses. Yeah, here you go. So this is me in Boston last year. The hill where I'm standing now is the final resting place of the dozens of pilgrims who died that first year, that first winter. The names of every person who died that year are on the monument behind me. They didn't. Yeah, so there's that. Show you Plymouth Rock. There's the little tiny Plymouth Rock. So this is Plymouth Rock. If you come here, you might be disappointed, but that's only where the disappointment really begins. Let me tell you a little bit of the story of this rock, and I'm going to walk out. And then this is the Mayflower 2, they call it, which is a reproduction of the original Mayflower. And I did walk around on that and shoot some video on there too. What else did I do? Plymouth Plantation, that was really cool, and I did a whole video there. This is basically like a living history. It's like a recreation of the original Plymouth settlement that's on the site, and you can interact with actors who portray the people who are on the Mayflower. So I did a whole video series, a whole bunch of videos there. I did get LASIK a year ago in August, so it's been about 16 months ago I got LASIK. Yeah. Best thing I ever did. Highly recommend it. There we go. So there's some of the video from Plymouth. The actors were fantastic. It was really, really cool.
Speaking on bear baiting with my new friend here on Christmas. I'm not going to hide it this time. On Christmas, I just think that the folks should know the conditions of this town before they settle down here, and that there's no Christmas, you see, right? Alright, come on, walk with me, all of you. You see, back in England, we were able to be good Christians and celebrate all 12 days of Christmas. We were. It was a nice.
So yeah, it was really cool. It's pretty neat. And then I've got some videos from New Mexico telling the story of the Lincoln County War that I shot while I was there. Let's see. These are the raw footage, so you're seeing me set up the camera and stuff. I'm just between the Tunstall McSween. Start over. I'm just between the Tunstall McSween store and the location of what was once Alexander McSween's home. The building you see behind me is a more modern home that was built on the site. The Lincoln County Are those mics faithful to the period? Yeah, yes. Did I have an ancestor on the Mayflower? Hey, funny you mentioned that. Why, yes, I did. Well, a visit to this area would not be complete without coming to pay my respects to my own 12th great-grandfather, George Soule, who was on the Mayflower. He was an indentured servant to the Winslow family. That's how he made his passage. Eventually moved to an area known as Duxbury, which is where I am now. This is the Miles Standish burying ground, named after Captain Miles Standish, who was also on the Mayflower and is buried here. But George, this stone was placed by his descendant some years later, and it marks the approximate spot. There are other Soule graves right here, so we believe this is about the area where George was laid to rest here in Duxbury. So there you go. Yeah, I do have an ancestor who was on the Mayflower. Like a lot of people do. That's not really anything all that special. Oh yeah, I did some videos about the Boston Massacre. Here's the site where the Boston Massacre happened. Haven't uploaded that yet. This is the Granary Burying Ground, which is where people like, let's see. This is the Granary Burying Ground in downtown Boston. If you only have time to see one cemetery in Massachusetts, this is the one I would recommend you come to. We're going to take a look at some of the highlights here, but among those who are buried in this historic cemetery in downtown are the victims of the Boston Massacre. You've got John Hancock, Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, the parents of Benjamin Franklin, as well as a number of others. So let's take a look around. So yeah, and it's a really tiny cemetery. Yes, there was a Japanese soldier who didn't surrender for many years after. Woodrow Wilson's definitely not my ancestor, though his wife is a distant cousin of mine. Yeah, so let's see if there's anything else that I haven't edited, at least not on here. I'm sure that I have all my Arlington videos, but they're not on this hard drive. I don't think they're even on this computer. Nope. Oh, there's my videos. Somebody asked earlier about if I've ever visited any sites associated with the Oregon Trail. Yeah. Independence Rock. That's this one right here. That's right on the Oregon Trail. I climbed up on that thing. It's crazy. It's in Wyoming. Suryabuki. I haven't done that one yet. Do we know where Squanto is buried? I don't think so. But yeah, Independence Rock, really cool site. You can climb up to the top of it. I was there a couple years ago. And people like put their names in it and stuff. You can see like 1850 right there. You can hear the wind. It was super windy up there. I think that's about all I have on here that I haven't done. Yeah, and then just all the Arlington videos. All right, so that's about all I've got right now. We'll probably wrap this up here in just a minute. Gonna go try and get some work done, getting ready to get the house set for decorating for Christmas. My wife's out shopping, spending all my money sometimes, so maybe I'll go do some editing. Yeah, I did go to the Oregon Trail and did not die of dysentery, so I do have 2 more videos from Antietam to get up. I've got one that's just about ready to go. Maybe I'll try to get that up later on tonight if I can. But thank you guys so much for joining me for the stream, and we'll see you again real soon.